Remember, the court can only hear the controversy in front of it, and they like to narrowly tailor the controversy as tiny as possible. So you think like, well, let's just get rid of the whole NFA. Realistically, it's going to happen by taking down the Hughes Amendment, then taking suppressors out, then maybe SBRs. I mean, it's going to be bit by bit by bit by bit, right?
Yeah. We are the Armed Attorneys. We are talking about I will say, probable provision of the NFA to fall. Now, we're talking about the machine gun provision, but it's probably not as far as some people would hope. So there's a little bit of nuance to this. We're going to be talking through all these considerations. But before we begin, show your support for the Second Amendment by hitting that like button. And so we just traveled to Knoxville, hung out with the folks over at Gun Owners of America. Hey, especially if you're here in the state of Texas, make sure to join Gun Owners of America here in Texas. You may or may not know this, but Emily and I, we write a lot of good gun bills for Gun Owners of America, lobby on their behalf, and we would appreciate your support. But all right, so we talking to all the lawyers, got it. Everybody got in a room together. And we were batting around some things, hypothetical situations, and this one came up, and I thought it would be a lot of fun to talk about.
Yes, we are talking about machine guns.
Yeah, machine guns indeed. And so, let's just do this one. If you could legally possess a machine gun, not so many hoops, would you?
Am I an American?
Okay, so Emily's on board. I'm on board. I was thinking about that, but all right. So what are we talking about specifically? Well, we're talking about the Hughes Amendment, and this is 18 U.S.C. 922-0. And this talks about how we don't have new machine guns. So, for all those who are like, yeah, you can get a machine gun. Yeah, if you got a fortune and you jump through all the hoops of the NFA, maybe you even find somebody who's willing to sell one of these things. But we have a limited supply of machine guns.
Right, because new machine guns have not been legal since 1986.
Yeah, May
1986.
May 19th, 1986. They had to have been registered on the books. And so we have this kind of artificially small supply of machine guns.
Oh, yeah.
And so we were talking about different aspects of the NFA, what is likely to succeed, what is likely not to succeed. And this is the consensus. And this isn't necessarily the way we want the world. Disclaimer as always. But we don't think that the political appetite for striking down the entire NFA exists currently. Not with the makeup of the Supreme Court.
I wish it did.
Yeah, we wish it did. But what we do think exists is maybe the Hughes Amendment, that one provision saying that the machine guns had to have been created, existed, registered before May 19, 1986. That provision of the NFA, we think, is a target-rich environment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's your Bruen analysis on that? First of all, are machine guns arms?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Presumptively covered by the Second Amendment.
All right. So now looking at history and tradition, what is your 1791 analog for prohibiting new manufacture of an arm?
That's a really interesting question.
That's the question that should be asked.
Yeah.
Now, is that the question that's ultimately asked by the court? Your guess is as good as ours because people are sneaking around it a lot, but that's the question, right?
Yeah, they're going to have a real uphill battle to it. Now, as far as that goes, okay, well, maybe we can't get rid of the NFA totally. Maybe the path is new machine guns, but you still have to register it, go through the National Firearms Act. Maybe we gain the political will to overturn the NFA entirely in that regard. But in the intermediate step between, we think that I think it wouldn't be difficult to have some folks who declare, we get these good declarations of folks who explain and outline what they want to engage in. I think the government, I think there's a good argument. Hey, guess what? These people are subject to prosecution, that there is a likely risk of them being prosecuted for this violation of 18 U.S.C. 922, possession of one of these new machine guns without being registered by the NFA. I'll say where the courts will probably not have a weasel way out here is, they won't have this reasonable alternative argument that exists in other aspects.
Right, exactly. And this would, I think that the general thinking here is that it would still keep machine guns within the realm of tax stamp paid, hoops jump through, name on list, ATF regulating the bejesus out of us. But this idea that new machine guns are prohibited, gonzo. And then you keep trying to take it out bit by bit, because remember, the court can only hear the controversy in front of it, and they like to narrowly tailor the controversy as tiny as possible. So you think like, well, let's just get rid of the whole NFA. Realistically, it's going to happen by taking on the Hughes Amendment, then taking suppressors out, then maybe SBRs. I mean, it's going to be bit by bit by bit by bit, right?
Yeah, and I will say, hey, why are we having this conversation now? Why hasn't anybody done this before? Well, I think this has been a overarching strategy. You see, we're working on, I say we, the collective we, the gun community. They've been working on suppressors for about almost a decade.
Yeah.
And we haven't really perfected what the attack strategy looks like in that regard. And so we don't want to go in on an issue like this without having kind of a known path forward. I see the suppressor issue, I see progress being made there. And I see the kind of guidelines in order to attack the violation of the Second Amendment, the infringement on the Second Amendment. Those lines are being clarified. And so I think the path forward on other items, once we have that kind of clear path, I think that makes it a better strategy when it comes to machine guns.
Sure. So I have a question. If the Hughes Amendment was struck down, do you think they would give us another amnesty period?
Interesting.
Right? Because, I mean, let's be honest. If there was no more Hughes Amendment, how many people are coming out of the woodwork with that thing that Grandpa brought back from the war?
Man, I can't tell you how many people I've spoken to who are like, hey, we just inherited my grandparents' farm. We're cleaning out the barn and found this
Guess what I found?
Guess what I found?
And then we're like, no, you didn't.
Yeah.
No, you didn't, because there is no way right now to make it right. If it was unregistered on May 19, 1986, it is hot lava.
Yeah.
Hot lava. Can't do it. So, but I do think that would be an interesting moment in time if we had amnesty. And we should, by all means.
Do you think, would this be an ex post facto, decriminalize? People try to register these things. They say you were in illegal possession at the time that the law was in effect.
Maybe they do love a gotcha.
They do love gotchas.
They love a gotcha.
So, all right, prediction hat on. When this issue comes up in a decade, we warned you.
Yeah. Speculating wildly, I think if the Hughes Amendment goes down, they're not giving us another inch.
No, I don't think so either.
But an amnesty would be great. We have not had one since, 1986, right? No, was there one after 1986?
Well, we have that. There was a collection. I can't remember the name of the gun group off the top of my head. I apologize. They had some firearms held by law enforcement that could have been registered. Remember, they just reached a settlement with the ATF to bring in. It was going to be about 30,000 new machine guns into the market. I don't know what the status of that settlement agreement is. Maybe we've mentioned it offhand before. Bending a lot of the kind of the knowns here, so please give me some grace. But there is a settlement going on right now to release a small batch of additional machine guns.
Right. So I don't know, to be seen, but it's an interesting thing to watch. And, when you get all of the lawyers, and bear in mind, Richard and I, we write gun laws, which is amazing. We love that. We feel like we head off a lot of bad stuff by keeping the state of the law good. I mean, really, a lot of what we do is unwrite gun laws.
Yeah.
We unwrite bad gun laws, and then we write in good ones and good protections. And then other than that, we are generally speaking criminal defense attorneys. So then once you run afoul of that gun law, we're going to try to keep you out of prison. But it was great to go sit down with the lawyers who are the ones suing the government, because that is its own specialty. It's not, those guys don't write laws and those guys don't keep you out of prison, but they will sue the government over the gun laws and get their take, because that's not our thing. Right?
Yeah. So who were we hanging out with? We were hanging out with Armed Scholar, Mark Smith, Tom Grieve, Gilbert Ambler out of Virginia,
James Phillips
out of Florida, Steve with GOA. It was kind of fun hanging out with all those guys.
It was.
But it's funny because they all sue people.
Yeah.
We don't sue people.
We don't sue people, but I think we got a good education from it.
Yeah, it was very productive. But we hope you enjoyed this discussion. If you did, consider subscribing, hitting that like button, and help us fight the anti-2A algorithm by sharing this video.
And please question and comment for us below. Until next time, we're the Arms Attorneys.